Hi, my name is Joan Devine, and I'd like to welcome everyone to a very special program, a hybrid event, part webinar and part conversation. Last week, Pastor Gary Gibson, a wonderful friend of Pioneer Network, reached out to me and shared the following message. With all that has gone on this last year and a half, I felt that I needed to do something for staff here at SeniorCare and especially the local hospital. So just sharing. What he shared was a presentation he had put together on getting through the holidays, the ups and downs of my holiday spirit. After taking a look at it, the team at Pioneer Network just felt like it was too good not to pass along. The holiday season has always been challenging for those in healthcare, and it seems that this year we're hearing from providers who are struggling more now than ever. And so I asked Pastor Gary if he would join me for a conversation that we could share with the network. And not surprisingly, he said yes. And so here we are. And I'd like to welcome my good friend, Pastor Gary, who will share his thoughts through this virtual conversation/webinar. Welcome, Gary.
Oh, Joan, thank you. And it is indeed a joy and a pleasure to be here. I do have the esteemed, wonderful privilege of serving as the Director of Spiritual Life here at Presbyterian SeniorCare, and also the chaplain and a hospice counselor for the local hospital. And I also have one more wonderful title, which I've been sometimes referred to as the pastor of the Pioneer Network, which is even a greater label to have and to share as well. But as Joan said, with all that's gone on for nearly 2 years, or it just seems like eternity, I just felt the need in talking to our staff that really needed to do something in regard to lifting their spirits. And again, as Joan said, getting them through the holidays. But I wanted to come up with something else in the way of a catchy phrase. So I come up with the ups and downs of my holiday spirit, because it is different for everybody and we all look at it different and our perspective is different. So just going to share some thoughts with you. Joan may very well have some questions that she wants to ask me that I can hopefully help with you, and we'll take it from there. But if we go to the first screen, you'll see it says, what are the first 3 words that come to mind when you hear the words holiday? And that word cannot be COVID, because we know how that has tainted and changed our lives for nearly 1 year and 3 quarters. So I had some words up there as part of the slide, but so many of the times when I would ask someone that question and preparing for this over the last couple of weeks, people would say to me almost invariably the first word was stress. Other folks, it was something like time or money. Other folks said overscheduled. Many people said demands, depression, all of these incredible words that when at least I think about the holidays, they're some of the last things that I would think of. But yet, as we all know, working in healthcare is not easy. And we also know even more so with what we have had to deal with in keeping our communities safe over the last year and a half has been incredibly challenging. So again, my concern was doing something for staff that could help them, and even just getting people together to talk about the holidays and how people are going to celebrate them and what's different this year and how can we make it better. So that's kind of where we are today in the way of the whole process. So we'll go to the next slide. So the question says, we all ask ourselves, several times, why are the holidays so stressful? We're told by all of that wonderful Christmas music that we listen to, 'tis the season to be jolly. And we also hear Andy Williams sing how many times, it's the most wonderful time of the year. Well, you'll hear a lot of people say, yeah, right. It sounds good on the radio, but putting it into practical use with my family, with my job, with the church, with all of the things that's going on, it's a little hard to do. So why are so many people unhappy during what is supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year? I think sometimes it's what we put on ourselves, but yet I put up there that a survey from US News and World Report says 40% of Americans say their stress level increases during the holidays. Now, I don't know about you, but I find that a little concerning. I know we live in a country that is we are so blessed with who we are and what we have. And yet, just because of what it says on the calendar, our stress level increases. So the last question you'll see on the slides, I think is the root of a lot of it. And that is how much of it is the unattainable expectations that we set for ourselves. Now, I don't know about you, but I know of a lot of people. I remember I just recently retired from the Presbyterian Church, and this will be the first time in 35 years on Christmas Eve that I won't be in the pulpit, and I'm okay with that. But when I think about that, I think about the times in the church when I remember a lady with 3 or 4 children said to me the first Sunday of Advent, I said, "Are you looking forward to the holidays?" "Oh," she said, "Pastor Gary, it's more like ready, set, go." And I understood what she was saying, because this lady worked outside the home. She's got children, she's got responsibilities. And as Joan and I were laughing before the program started today, I'm one of those people that when the Christmas tree comes out, it's a good time for me to leave. I just celebrated my 50th wedding anniversary last week, but I can tell you, I still don't really want anything to do with the Christmas tree. I will help bring the stuff in. I do all the decorating outside, and that's kind of what gets me going when it comes to this time of the year and lifts my spirits. But again, going back to this unbelievable expectations, the bar, we place it so high. With all of the things that we think we need to accomplish, it's almost like the day after Thanksgiving, this incredible race starts that doesn't end until about 7 o'clock on Christmas Eve. And that's
And does it end then, Gary?
Joan says, "Does it end then?" No, it really doesn't. For some people, it's even worse. I was just telling Joan that I was talking to the residents this morning in one of our communities across the street. And they were telling me so many of them come from a time and an era when they went to bed on Christmas Eve, the tree wasn't even up. Yeah. And plus they went to mass, and plus there was food to be done. No wonder mom fell asleep in the chair on Christmas Day. The poor soul was exhausted from what she had to do. So when you think about, we have it now, first of all, the tree is artificial. It can be put up 3 weeks ahead of time. All of those pieces help, I hope, bring us together and hopefully lower the stress level. So,
and Gary, as you say that, it makes me think too, would be a wonderful time to have those conversations, just like you did with residents, because I think of myself, and I know you and I are fairly close in age, and what the holidays were like when we grew up. And it was much simpler. Thanksgiving was Thanksgiving, and you had a break. And then you started the Christmas season, and it didn't last for months or weeks. It lasted for days.
Yeah, versus the Christmas decorations coming out the day after Halloween.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I think we could learn a lot from our residents about a simple way.
Oh my golly, absolutely. Telling me about their favorite gifts, their favorite meals, all of the things that made Christmas so incredibly special. And none of it was commercial. It was all family, love, church-based. As Joan said, my heavens, what they can teach us. So we'll move on to the next slide. So we really have to be realistic. And I think that's kind of why I put those words up there at the top of this slide, because I think maybe it's a question, and it is part of our stress level regarding the holidays being fed by our inability and or our unwillingness to openly discuss the source of our frustration. I think as a society, we've told ourselves, this is what we're supposed to do. There is no conversation. There is no discussion. This is how my parents did it. This is how we're going to do it. And I think sometimes people are that structured when it comes to the holidays. So again, another question, would that stress level be reduced if we honestly shared our feelings about what we want to participate in and what we do not? And I say that because coworkers here, family members, neighbors, we have to be honest and share with ourselves and say, you know what, your definition of celebrating may very well be completely different from mine, and that's okay. And we have to learn to respect that with one another. So next slide. the I was talking a little bit ago about being Thanksgiving and it being a race. And by all means, we have to plan ahead. And again, as Americans, I think we have just gotten so used to technology bailing us out and doing the things that we want to do, that anticipation and anxiety leading up to the season can be more intense sometimes than the actual holiday. Planning ahead can help us lower our anxiety, especially for children. And of course, we know some adults as well. Yet, once we decide what we can and cannot do, we need to share our decision with family and friends. How might this help with your stress? Well, I had a group of folks together at a meeting the other morning. It was really kind of just a get together as the shift was starting, when I was telling people that I was working on this. And I'm going to say there were 6 people. I think 4 of them were women and 2 of them were men. And I said, I want to ask you a question. I said, have you ever thought about, as the Christmas season begins, sitting down with your family and posing this question? How are we going to celebrate Christmas this year? Better yet, how would you, looking to the children, like to celebrate Christmas this year? And again, I think it's because we make the assumption that we have to follow the same course of action that our parents did. And I know those are traditions and I respect those, but I think families, especially young families today, need to make their own traditions and what works for you. You may very well be surprised if you ask your children how they want to celebrate, what aspects of Christmas traditions do they like, and what they don't like. Because I'm going to compare that to our residents. And that is, if you ask them, they're going to be honest and they're going to tell you. And I appreciate that kind of honesty. And I think sometimes we're so afraid to color outside the lines of the sanctum of the holiday season, that we just go with the flow, which very well sometimes I think causes this incredible stress level. Because once you decide on what you can and cannot do, that's when we should share with our family and our friends. I know that there's lots of parties, all of those kinds of things go on, but be honest with our siblings and say, we may very well not come until after Christmas. The people who live down the block, I really want to spend some time with you during the holiday season, but it might be better if we wait till after the first of the year. It would mean a whole lot more to me. So planning ahead makes an incredible difference. I know it's tough, but it is something that can be done. And it's something that we need to teach ourselves, especially when we think about children and grandchildren and what their Christmas might be like 20 years from now. Next slide. This is a tough one. Don't let other people determine what you should or should not do. And I say that because you don't have to do what others think you should do. Give yourself the right to do what you want to do. And that goes back to the previous slide when I was talking about setting an agenda, talking about the things that you can honestly accomplish between Thanksgiving and Christmas. There is so much to do and so many responsibilities, at least we feel there are so many of them, that we almost forget about our own happiness. We put our feelings on hold. We put our own happiness on hold because of this structure of the way that we think that it should be. And I think it's more than time for us to say, when we reach this time of the year, about setting a different kind of agenda. One that says we're going to take care of ourselves. One that says I can do this, but I don't believe I can't do this. When I think about my own mother, how many years ago, she worried about the house being clean. The cookies have to be baked. The house has to be cleaned. It has to be decorated. There was just a list that just went on and on and on. And I wonder sometimes, how much of the happiness of the holiday season did mom really get to appreciate or participate in? And I think it's a question that we need to ask ourselves, because we really do control the agenda.
I think,
Next
Gary,
slide.
that one
Yeah,
too has very special meaning for people that work in healthcare because, so many of the people that are listening to us now, they work evenings or they work nights, they work weekends, and Christmas is on a weekend this year, which is
right.
always a challenge. And so your life is different. What the expectations for you on that day may be different than someone who works in an office and has never even thought about the prospect that they would have to work
Right.
on a holiday like Christmas. So you've got to take that into consideration. And it's frustrating when others don't understand what it is that you're facing.
Right. And especially when I think about CNAs, but everybody, whether it's CNAs, LPNs, nurses, I have said many times in programs and projects that I've done with the Pioneer Network that I believe when it comes to healthcare, that it's not something that you choose. It's something that chooses you. It is indeed a calling. And I've seen more nurses cry and be upset because they can't meet the expectations of their residents. And I know that we can't always do that. We can try, but it is a real tug of war sometimes between what we want to do for our family that we live with, but also there's the family that we work with every day and how incredibly close we get with these folks and what it means to make sure the little 2-foot tree in their room is up or the tinsel is hung over their door, the little things to them that mean so much. And therefore we're kind of torn back and forth. But Joan is absolutely right, especially when you're working different shifts. Especially at night and then early in the evening when, it would be a great time to be out shopping and doing all of those things. But then you kind of take a step back and say, yeah, but I'm making a difference in the life of my residents and my family will understand. Well, going back to that communication piece I talked about before, sitting down with our families and saying, I have a responsibility to you, there is no doubt. And I want to make the holidays as joyful and as celebrative as I can. But I also have a group of people that I help take care of every day and coworkers and team members that make all of the difference that are almost like family to me as well. So it's a real tug of war sometimes in healthcare. There's no doubt about it. And we do our very best. We really and truly do. We just have to just continue to pray for one another that we all get through it, especially with COVID added to the mix. It doesn't make it any easier when residents can't get out of their rooms, they can't go to church, they can't go to the beauty parlor, they can't play bingo. I believe in my heart that we lost more residents the last year and a half from loneliness than any kind of sickness. And that really breaks my heart. But yet I know the lengths that we went to give them and enhance the quality of life that we could to our best ability every single day. Next slide. So limitations, wow, a big word, but also one that is a part of that regiment or that schedule that we just feel that has been molded around us because of the day on the calendar. You may not be able to do all the things you did in past years. And I'm just going to stop right there because that's the realization that we have to come to. Every single Christmas, every single day is different. So every single Christmas is going to be different. So we say to ourselves, what aspects of the holiday season are especially challenging for your family? You as a family can decide that, whether that's you and your spouse or you, your spouse and children and grandchildren. I just think the lines of communication have such potential when it comes to the holidays as to how we can help one another and be honest about the things that we can do and we can't do. So consider maybe to some degree scaling back or changing things that you may have done in the past, and consider what's been done or might especially be enjoyable or meaningful to your family. Again, there may be new traditions. Maybe you go out shopping together. Maybe you go to a local skating rink, whether that be roller skating rink or ice skating rink. And that's all a part of the celebration of the holidays. It's about family. It's about being together. But how many of those things can we do? We have another 11 months to do lots of other things. And that's kind of where we are when it comes to long-term care for people. It seems, the community really focuses in on what my residents are doing during the holidays, but I have to remind them that they're here the other 11 months of the year. I appreciate the fact that you've brought some poinsettias and some gifts and all of those things, but we have to let that carry on through the rest of the year as well. But again, asking the question, what's meaningful to your family? And again, I believe if you ask them, they'll tell you. Next slide. So celebrate different feelings and preferences. Again, I keep harping on this, I know, but involve your children and your grandchildren in discussions about what they would like to do. Again, I think you would be pleasantly surprised in what they would share with you. Being a child now compared to 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago, I mean, it's just incredibly changed with technology being what it is and all of the wonderful accessibilities we have to the internet, and the movies and television. And again, you have to decide as a family what you feel is best for you. You and your family may decide to keep everything the same, or maybe you want to change it, or you may fall somewhere in between. It's amazing how many people with younger families, as they start to get older, have decided to go away for Christmas. Maybe they don't have grandparents. So that may very well be a new normal for you, or you may just decide to stay at home, cut back on some of the things that you've done in past years, but hold on to some traditions that mean, the most important things to you. Next slide. Be informed before attending events. When we think about this time of the year, we think about these countless parties for friends. I won't put office parties in there because that's something that normally just mom or dad would be a part of. But, when it comes to a holiday party somebody's having in the neighborhood or in the community, find out who will be there, how long maybe you're expected to stay, or whether or not you need to do anything to prepare for it. As well as I do, there have been Christmases or holiday seasons in the past where you've laid them out. In one night, you're going to try to make 3 different appearances at 3 different people's houses. And you say to yourself, okay, we'll just stay 10 minutes. We'll make an appearance. Well, I can tell you, you see people you haven't seen for 4 or 5 years. It was 7 o'clock. Now it's 8 o'clock. Those are the kinds of things I'm talking about, is being informed about how long you're going to stay, whether or not, there's anything that you need to prepare for. Did these people get you a gift last year? Should I take something since they're the host? Should I take a bottle of wine? Should I take a tin full of cookies? You're not going to know the answer to those questions unless you ask them. And I think people are perfectly okay with that. I think there's a comfort level there. I would much rather know what my expectations are in going to someone's house or some kind of a holiday party. But I also think as a family, you can brainstorm the way that you and your family can make this year's holiday even more special than they've been in the years past, because of our willingness to talk about those things, to share what it is. Well, we went to such and such person's house last year, and Mom, we were there for like 2 hours and it was so boring for the children. Well, I can understand that. So that's going to be a tradition that the children really don't want to be a part of in the future, but it's also something that we have to take into consideration because it's a family thing, and we want our children to be as happy through the holidays as we are. Any comments, Joan?
No, I think you're right. They're just talking about what to expect when we're going places, and we put it upon ourselves. And it made me think, Gary, of the I can't remember your name, we put those stresses. I don't remember who gave me a gift last year. I don't remember who expects what from me. And sometimes you just need to ask. And it's kind of like with the I can't remember your name. More times than not, when you say that to somebody, I'm really sorry, I don't remember your name. Oh, I'm so bad with names too. So people get it that
Yeah,
we
they
don't
do.
remember those things and that we
In most
struggle with
holiday
them.
parties, they don't wear name tags.
No, they don't. No, they don't. And
It
that
it
can
would be
cause
a
a lot of
wonderful,
stress.
exactly. It would be certainly less stress if everybody in the neighborhood did that. So I'm not sure we can change the way we do things, but we can certainly try. So
Absolutely.
next one. Please, I'm going to emphasize on this one, ask for help, even when it's hard to do. You know, if it feels right, allow people to help in concrete ways, such as cleaning, cooking, baking, shopping, wrapping, whether that's childcare, whether it's running errands. I think children, even as small as, 6, 7, 8, 9 years of age, if mom and dad sat down with them and say, we're going to try to accomplish a lot over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And in order for that to happen, mom or I may need some help. Whether it's making sure that the house is cleaned up, whether it comes to wrapping gifts for relatives and whatever. Maybe it's something that the kids have never done before, but it's also something that many times moms feel, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do that. Now, granted, if it's things for the children, obviously they can't be involved in wrapping, but a 10, a 12, 13-year-old, if there was a smaller sibling, can certainly watch that child while mom is upstairs trying to wrap some gifts. Or maybe a teenager staying home while mom and dad can go out and do a little shopping. But also when it comes to cooking and baking, I think it should be a family affair. I really do. Get everybody in the kitchen, turn the television off. Everybody take their cell phone and put them in a basket in a different room, especially for your children, and say, for the next 2.5 hours, we're going to bake 2 or 3 different kinds of cookies. Put the Christmas music on. I think we have an unbelievable opportunity to change the way we celebrate Christmas. And it can be done. Sometimes it gets us into a little bit of trouble. I can remember my children, my 2 daughters, wanting me to help them make cookies because mommy was too busy. So I said, fine, we'll do that. So we go to the kitchen and we're going to make sugar cookies. And one of the things I said, well, we're going to need a lot of them. So I'm going to go ahead and double the recipe. And I was fine until we got to where I had to put in 10 cups of flour for the sugar cookies. Well, I can tell you, my poor wife baked sugar cookies until 4 o'clock in the morning because we didn't do it the way we should have. So all we did was really put more stress on her. But, sometimes we worry about burdening other people. But, the truth be told, the more often than not, other people are more than willing and eager to help. I can remember my mom asking, can you do this? Can you do that? And I hope that I've done that with my own 2 children, my 2 grown daughters as well. And it will be something that they will share with their children as well. Helping and being supportive to and for one another has a tremendous potential to relieve the stress factor because it's a project that we're all working on and it's not falling on 1 or 2 people. And that's the problem when it comes to the holidays. So many times with Christmas, mom is the person who's pretty much stuck with doing everything. And it's like Christmas, how do you celebrate the big Christmas meal? I will tell you that we no longer have a great big Christmas dinner. We all go to my daughter's house. Somebody bakes a ham. We have potato salad. We now call it a holiday picnic. And then we just kind of graze around 2 or 3 o'clock after gifts and everything have been opened, but nobody's in the kitchen for hours on end. Nobody's doing dishes. We're sitting around the tree. We're playing board games. We're doing all those kinds of things, which we can, but we just have to be intentional about doing it.
You know, I think, Gary, as you say that, I think of, paper plates. They make very nice looking paper plates these days. But the other thing is, when we were, I know, again, I'm going back to when I was younger, not that many years ago, if you didn't make it homemade, store-bought was out of a bag or something. Most of us, our local, even Sam's and Costco and the local grocery store make unbelievable food. And so, is it homemade? Yes. Is it homemade by me? Maybe
No,
not.
no,
But that's okay.
it is.
And we've got
Because
to we
it's
got to be okay with ourselves with that.
yeah, right. It's the taste of the cookies. When you can get a round circular thing of cookies that there's 3.5 dozen on for $19.99, that's a good thing. That is a blessing. That is a gift from God for a lot of people. I can tell you, no question. And Joan is right. Homemade. Wow. When you think about it, she's absolutely right. How many years back it was out of the question. Whether it was the pies, the cookies, everything had to be homemade. And we're now in a society that's just a little too busy to do that. But it doesn't mean we can't celebrate around those things that have been purchased somewhere else.
And I have to tell you, Gary, that makes me think my mother taught me quite a number of years ago, back when originally pie crusts came out, the store-bought pie crust, they weren't really very good. And then Pillsbury came out with their crust that is not in a thing. And what my mom taught me was, is if you take that pie crust and you roll it out a little bit more yourself, now it really tastes like homemade, but a whole lot less work. Those are wonderful tricks.
Exactly. Yeah, I can remember those days of my mother and pie crust and lard and all of the stuff. And now it's a little bit different. Absolutely.
It doesn't have to, we don't have to make it that hard. And and it tastes great. You can tell people if you want. You don't have to tell people if you want. They'll never know.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay, our next slide says that this is probably, maybe I should put this at the very beginning. We need to find time to rest and take care of yourself. Make time for yourself. Because you and I, Joan, we all know it's so easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of extra tasks and hassles that the holiday brings. Added to regular responsibilities, it can heighten our stress level very quickly. So it's learning to take care of ourselves. And the picture on the screen, that little fuzzy dog, sometimes that's how people feel by about 7 o'clock on Christmas Day. They're just absolutely exhausted. And the picture in the middle are those very people that I think start running that incredible race the day after Thanksgiving. It does seem like a race sometimes, but here's the true, maybe secret in all of us. You're the person who has the potential to set the tempo for the race. You're the person who can set the agenda items of what you want to accomplish by a certain date. I know 35 years of ministry telling people who are getting married, and I may meet with them a year ahead of time, say work very hard for those first 6 or 7 months, whether it's the place you're having the wedding, the caterer, the pictures, the DJ, and those last 2 months, you can coast right into it and appreciate every aspect of one of the happiest and most important days of your life. And we could do that with almost every holiday, but especially Thanksgiving and Christmas, if we would take the time to do a little bit of planning, a little bit of sharing with our family on what we want to do, what can we do, what's possible, versus worrying about all of these accomplishments that we have to check off as we make our way to that final day. Excuse me. Okay, next slide. Find a reason to laugh. If you don't watch Home Alone during the holidays, then to a very large degree, you're missing something. As I say, humor is a fantastic stress reducer and an effective way that should be of coping with challenging situations. And heaven only knows we find ourselves in a lot of challenging situations. And the old adage is true. If we didn't laugh, we'd cry. And who wants to do that during Christmas? I can tell you. But again, take the opportunity to laugh as much as possible during the holidays. Don't take what we have to do and the responsibilities we have so serious. Make them fun. Talk about baking the cookies, talking about making the decorating process a family affair, shopping a family affair, all of those things. And in the midst of that, there's going to be some humor. There's no doubt about it. Or you can certainly, make your own. But like I say, watch a funny movie or do something silly or play cards or play board games, all of those kinds of things. Life is just too short to, be so serious. And this time of the year, it seems our focus on what needs to be done kind of steals our laughter. It steals the levity that comes with the joy of the holidays. And it's just something we've got to get back. We've got to change the way we do things to where it's much more enjoyable versus much more stressful. Next slide. So I just kind of put up this question. I always kind of like to do a review of when I do any kind of a workshop. And I just said, has this workshop and our discussion helped you to look at your holiday season, perhaps in a different light? And it's funny because I'm doing this workshop here on campus 2 different days this week. I'm calling it a lunch and learn, and people are going to come for 45 minutes. We're ordering pizza. We're all just going to sit around. We'll be safe distance between everybody. And we're going to talk about the very things that we just talked about now with this presentation, because I think it has tremendous potential to, first of all, just kind of take people out of their element for a while, exercise their memories, think about their Christmas traditions in the past, how some of the things that I mentioned give us some ideas and some new concepts as to how we can celebrate. Well, I allow myself to be lifted up by the holiday season. I think it is I shouldn't say it's a simple choice, because for some folks, it's something they really have to work hard on. But we should allow ourselves to be lifted, not to be completely pushed down because I have to do this and I have to do that. Let's not push each other down. Let's lift everybody up in every opportunity we have to do that. Is it possible to remove the word stress from our vocabulary? I think, in all honesty, probably not. But I believe the answer is we can lessen that potential of stress in our lives if we look at the holidays a little differently. Will the holidays be what I want to do or what I feel I have to do? That is only a decision that you can make and a question that you can answer. I'm hoping with some of the things that we've talked about today, the potential is there for us to change them. But it's only, it's very personal. It's not one that somebody else can answer for you. Will my attitude be one of joy and peace or anger and chaos? Again, you know your family better than anyone. Think about the things that we can do to eliminate anger, and we can eliminate chaos. And a lot of that comes from just some planning. Again, asking folks what they want to do. What parts of the holiday are the most meaningful for you? And as a family, how can we go about celebrating those things? Because that's where you're going to find peace and joy and love and contentment. I'm deciding now on what I feel I can accomplish and what I cannot. And again, how many dozen cookies can you bake? How many floors can you wax? How many gifts can you wrap? How many trips to the mall are you going to make? And every single one of them is an accomplishment that we feel we have to check off versus being a nice slow pace in getting all of those things done, but just lessening the stress process for all of it. This year, I choose to celebrate and commemorate the season. Again, it's about taking the time every evening, maybe to sit in that chair with a glass of wine or a cup of tea and just stare at the tree or look out the window or put on some wonderful music and listen to it. Because if you're going to choose to celebrate and commemorate, then it means those other things we kind of have to put on hold and not let them get us down. When I feel what I'm trying to accomplish is too much, I'm going to ask for help. Great. Please tell me you'll be willing to do that, because again, I think it has the opportunity and or potential to change the outcome of Christmas for many of us, because we can't do it all ourselves. And I will find time to rest and take care of myself. You can do it. Whether it's making sure you get to sleep or get to bed at a decent hour, what we're eating during the course of the day, exercise, all of those things can help us feel better. But again, they're individual decisions that only you or me, for our own individual lives can make. But I think the opportunity is there to do so. And how you take care of yourself really, to some degree, will be a direct reflection on the rest of your family. If you're tired and you're a little edgy, they're going to know it. And maybe it'll be your children that will say, Mom or Dad, I just think y'all need to sit down and rest for a little bit, and let's do this or let's do that. And that's when that laughter starts, or the board game comes out, or the Uno game, or whatever the case may be. Next slide.
And Gary, before you go on to your next slide, I would be remiss if I didn't share one thing. As you talk about all these things that we need to do to take care of ourselves, I don't know, some of you may have already seen it, but Gary has a wonderful colleague named Carrie Chisano, and Carrie did a podcast for Pioneer Network back in November. Seems like such a long time ago. And she talked about how you can make the holidays a special time for those individuals living with dementia, and for yourself as the care partner of someone living with dementia. And as we talk about all these stresses, we have not said that, and that's not really what Gary's message is today, but it's part of that message, knowing the people that we're working with and knowing how to take care of ourselves. So I wanted to put a little plug in for Carrie's podcast. It's on the Listen, Learn, Explore site of the Pioneer Network website, because that's another good resource to allow yourself the opportunity to learn from others, to get some little tidbits of help and advice that they have learned that have helped them get through the holiday better, and borrow them, steal them, share them shamelessly, but use them to make the holidays better for everyone.
Yeah, that's funny. I was just up at the Oakmont campus for the first time in over a year, and Carrie and I got to see one another. We've talked on the phone, but she has been a presenter with me at the Pioneer Network and Leading Age and some other places. We have been great friends, and I'm sure, as Joan says, she has a great way of sharing, especially folks with dementia, and exactly how we can share the holiday with them, and how they can share the holiday with us. I tell people all the time, I think I do 6 worship services here on campus every week, between independent living, assisted living, and our new building, which is Woodside Place of Washington. And I'm not bragging when I say this on those residents, but my residence in Woodside Place of Washington is my greatest worship service the whole week, I can tell you, in what they share with me, and the music and the singing. They have so many wonderful memories of Christmas. And when you give them the opportunity to share them, oh my word, their faces just absolutely light up, because as we know, most of them probably can't tell us what they had for lunch or what they did this morning, but they can tell you exactly what was on the table Christmas Day, 1946, in detail, I might add, in detail. So you're absolutely right. And, helping other folks like that, I didn't mention, but one of the things that I think we can do to lift our spirits is to volunteer. I can't tell you how many people on this campus who work here, who do what they do, team members, and yet then I find out they're at the Salvation Army part of the time, they're at the Washington City Mission, they're at the school volunteering for their children and doing all of these things. And the reason I say that is because reaching out to somebody else and sharing the love of life and the holidays, you will be incredibly surprised what it does for you in lifting your spirits. So I'm hoping this holiday season that the joy and the peace of the holidays live in your heart all year long. That potential is there. And I hope what we've shared today gives you some ideas on how we look at the holiday season, but more than anything else, how we can all benefit from this wonderful time of year.
Well, thank you so much, Pastor Gary. It has been a pleasure listening to you and chatting with you. And on behalf of Pioneer Network, I wish to echo Pastor Gary's wishes for joy and peace in the holiday season for our good friends who just celebrated the joy of Hanukkah. We
Yes,
know you've lived through some of your holiday, and we hope we were able to celebrate a little bit with you, and you'll celebrate a little bit with us. No
indeed.
matter how any of us celebrate the holidays, they're a special time, and we need each other. Happy holidays and Happy New Year to everyone.
Yes, indeed.